Hey guys, it's your boy T to the Y Top. Hi, how are you and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Before we get started, I would like to remind you and ask you to please subscribe to this YouTube channel. Please like, share, and hit that bell notification. I want to talk to you about my new book that's coming out the 1st of January called Geneva's Ghost. This book is centered around a story that I wrote. The main character his name is Alex Starr. It's kind of a combination of a couple of different stories, and all of these characters have different things going on. The first story that I wrote and I created a video for is called Eno. I'll put a link in the description box of the video so you can check it out yourself. But all of these stories revolve around Alex. The character usually has a red shirt on and blue jean shorts. There's a soundtrack that's supposed to come out the beginning of the year, which is entitled Strangers Passing By. During when I first created this story, I taught the first song that was in the album was called The Empty Road. This new album that's set to come out with the story, both of these come out in January. The second part is called Strangers Passing By. I think of it as now with being the empty road is like when you set out on this great journey and you're traveling down the road by yourself, and now you're on the journey and you're passing by all of these people that you don't know. And Alex hopes to find adventure, love, and acceptance on the empty road. But he does come up against some difficulties. So now we're going to go into some of the stories that revolve around that. This story is continuously, what's the word I'm looking for, is still being written, and this is only the first part. And you'll see that emblem on his shirt is a music note, and that's really what keeps him going. So the first album where you can find the empty road is called African American. And that's when you really start experiencing the different characters from the book. This character is Black Matter. Now, I'm going to give you an in depth understanding of this whole idea of the storyline of the franchise and how I hope for this to grow. And I'm going to give you a backstory of all of the characters and how they play into this big new world. So, we're going to be talking about the clarity, accuracy, precision, relevance, depth, breadth, the logic, the significance, and the fairness of all of this. Something that I really wanted to focus on was I wanted to have global themes in this story so a lot of people could really say that, hey, this somewhat applies to my life. I'm very passionate about being a humanitarian, but I also love animals. And it breaks my heart to see animals being mistreated. In this story, you'll find a character who is a monkey, and his story, we'll get into that. But his story really revolves around animal trafficking, and I hope that that is made very clear. This story takes place far away from our earthly plane, where things are different and not quite the same, but somehow yet remain sane and in order. The race of jewels seek out a suppression, seek a way out of suppression. They have been sent to labor in camps. The jewels are not happy about their new dictatorship. The warlord antagonist is pressured and manipulated by his mother to be more and do more. She slowly corrupts him. What is meant for evil will be turned into good, and vice versa. The protagonist, Alex Starr, and his newfound friends journey through dimensions to save a forsaken race. They encounter many obstacles and evils that wish to bring them harm and to stop them from reaching their goal. Through perseverance and focus, they save a race and find a power greater than evil. They say there is no light without dark, no good without evil, no male without female, no right without wrong. That nothing can exist if its direct opposite does not also exist. The jewels discover that they don't have to be limited by their circumstances. Black Matter says, my jewels, you could have been free a long time ago, if only you believed in your own power. Home is knowing your heart, knowing your mind, knowing your courage. If we know ourselves, we are always home anywhere. And advanced jewels. Jewels are an advanced alien race made up of hard reflective material. They have superhuman abilities. Opal Opus Shadows. It is a time of war. The groups have taken the jewels, at least at last effort for freedom. As a last effort for freedom, Opal manages to put together a rebellion. The jewels try to rebel. There is power in groups, but they don't stick together, which is what leads to their downfall. Many of the jewels begin to feel like they are hopeless and give up fighting. Opal escapes from the work camp. Opal is now in the forest where he meets Alex, Bear, and Monkey. The rain pours down along with a burst of strong winds and lightning crash. Opal becomes part of the team. Using Alex's book, they travel to different universes to gather jewels, hoping to start a rebellion and free the masses of enslaved jewels before it is too late. Opal frees the jewels. Focus on Opal's pursuit of freedom. In this scenario, what are examples of justice and injustice? What is right and wrong? How does this character develop? What makes this character relevant to the storyline? Significance. Is this the central idea to focus on? Opal's shadows. The central idea to focus on. What is the most significant part to really focus on about Opus? Well, let me talk about Opus and say that he definitely is not the antagonist. Opus is probably not the bad guy at all. Um, Opus is, how do I really develop this character? Because Opus, I feel like Opus is a little bit like all these characters are a piece of me to some extent. But Opus, like I don't know, like when I hear like him talking, or like honestly, it's not even a him or a her. Like these are aliens and stuff, and that's not got nothing to do with it. It's really about the kind of mind frame that I get in, and like when I hear it, I hear it saying like, how is it? It kind of reminds me like in like fairy tales of something like a fairy, because it's like mischievous, but it's not like a like bad mischievous. It's like a kind of playful type thing, and always looking for adventure. And I really feel like there's really a big heart behind this character too, because to be enslaved and not only be able to find that place in yourself to try to pursue freedom, but also to try to go back and help the others. Think of how bad it could have been, to try to get through that. How hard must have been. So courage, definitely, definitely brave. Okay, now we're at Monkey. Chung Lee. Chung Lee has escaped. He is on the road and the run, getting out of an abusive relationship. He or she is forced to perform as an indentured servant. He or she finds their self on this great journey. Some bullet points for Monkey are learning to be part of a team, letting go of situations, learning to confide in someone, and the story, like I said, revolves around animal trafficking and forced labor. Chung Li is the monkey, and the character is like, these characters are still developing and growing into themselves, but this character is definitely like, this is a warrior, this is a fighter. Um, has a hot temper, obviously. Um, the logic. So how does that follow from the evidence? Um, well, you'll see. I haven't got a chance to shoot the videos that I've wanted to shoot for this, but I definitely want to shoot some fighting scenes with Chung Li, because he's like kind of like a kind of, I'm not gonna say the breath. Do we need to look at this in other ways? How, what other way would you see Chung Li? And in a way, he's he's kind of broken in a certain way, um, because why is he broken? That we're going to go to the death. How do you take into account the problem? This question. So why is he broken? Well, Chung Li is probably broken because he too is kind of being forced to enslave. He's actually kind of like an indentured servant. He's forced to perform at a circus alongside of a whole lot of other animals. Um, and the animals are tortured and forced to perform. Um, what are some of well, how do you take into account the problems in this question? So the problems are what is wrong with forcing animals to not just force work, but forcing animals um to work and not to be in their and have like natural habitats. Like we're talking about circuses and zoos and live shows. Do you, as the reader or listener, think that there is a problem with that? These things are great to go to with your family and to watch, but these are still live animals, and sometimes I have seen online where these animals are being, they're using these rods that electrocute like the elephants and stuff, and tying them up and being in these small cramped areas, and not even just that, but on a bigger scale, like the food that we're eating, like animals are being bred just to eat. And sometimes I think, you're eating the decaying flesh of something that was living before. But how does this idea relate to the issue? Well, it all goes back to suppression and oppression and being able to that pursuit of freedom, which America was founded on that the pursuit of freedom, of happiness, liberty, and something else. But yeah. So as an American, that can relate to you, and I have some other stuff, but we're going to stay on task with some. I have some new stories that are coming out that can really apply to a lot of different people globally, out in and outside of America. Okay, the precision. Could you be more specific? I really want to stay on task, and we're gonna keep moving forward. But a project that I want to work on this Christmas break is a short film that talks about the taboos of men and women, and how what kind of where does it really take your thought and brain train of thought when the taboos that are applied to women get applied to men, and then taboos that get applied to men get applied to women, and it focuses on like kind of a train of thought is what if men had to condense themselves down and cover themselves up in the way they dress, like they did in like they do in foreign countries, as India as an example. And with that being said, we're going to move on to the next character, which is Bear. Now, Bear is Inu. Eno's story revolves around the cons and pros of education. After being sent away by the Grand Elder Monk after 60 years of solitary study, he or she realizes Here she realizes they have been very sheltered and do not know how to adapt well in this new society that they're in. Here she is sent to the peak of the grandest mountain on the planet with a box, unaware of the power it holds. He meets an odd group of friends. He helps them and they help him. Now we're going to talk about the Warlord, formerly known as the antagonist of the story. After conquering the planet that the jewels inhabit, it comes to light he just wants the best for his people. And at the end of the day, we all just want to be a great country. He was a king. He liked the feeling of being safe. He liked Mazida, but he because he could be free around her. He trusted her, had a massive army to protect him. Some bullet points are: why doesn't he have a girlfriend or a spouse? Why is it just him and his mom? Where's his father? Matriarch Mazida, the mother of the warlord, she does a lot of work to ensure the success of the society. She is often looked upon as manipulative and evil, but really she wants things to change too. But the groups have needs that have to be met, and in her eyes, their needs come first, even above her son. Greed and use of dark magic leads to her being banished. She fails as a parent but rises as a matriarch. Why would she need to use dark magic? They need the jewels to reverse some effect of the dark magic. It is demolishing their society, killing the environment. They don't ask, they take. This really this is fantasy, but it really revolves around like the issues that we experience in everyday life, like having green businesses. But it's so important because if you don't if you don't manage that stuff well, you can really tear apart the environment and it won't be able to be used in the future. Accuracy, how can we verify the accuracy of that? Flint, that's a perfect example. Their like water system got polluted and people were getting really sick and dying. Um, Alex Starr, the leader of the new rebellion, he or she parents have passed away. He is being haunted by a witch, which actually these are not witches. These when I rewrote the book. I not rewrote it. I wrote it out for the first time, and they're actually muses. There are like non-muses in Greek mythology, and you'll get into that when you when you purchase the book. You can pre-purchase the book now for $5 and like 35 cents or something like that. And I'll have the link down in the description box. You should really check it out. It's called Geneva's Ghost. He struggles to find the book. Okay, Black Alex Starr, the leader of the new rebellion, he or she parents have passed away. He is being haunted by a witch. Muses, he's they seek out the pair of magical scissors that will help him save the world. Black Matter sends him a transportation book. This book allows him to travel between worlds. Also, it's important to read and have imagination. That's what he struggles to find the right words to describe his feelings as he approaches an important milestone. He rejects frightened as too strong a word, recalling a time when he had really been frightened when his parents died in the car crash. Now we're going to talk about Black Matter, and you can find like all you get the full story in the book, and all of this will make sense. The Alpha, the Omega, everything in between, the creator and ruler of the universe and source of all moral authority, the supreme being, a superhuman being or spirit worshipped as having power over nature and human forces, kind of like a deity. What is the Groot? What is a Groot? These are fictional fantasy characters. A Groot serves under the warlord in the army and has social responsibility, religious responsibility, financial responsibility, political responsibility. Much like an insect colony, they follow the leader, and each are born into a specific role in their community. a society that is being controlled by the rules and traditions of the elders. The hunter or ringman, the master of the skies, he sets out to recapture Monkey and return him to his show. He has spent 20 years in prison but released. The jewels are in a very good environment, but only have been captured, but only are in a very good environment, but only after being captured do they realize they serve a bigger purpose in their world. Okay. In clarity, could you give me an example of that? I think how the groups, and the jewels are like the two sides of ourselves, and it's that part that that part that kind of has to work, and that or that part that may feel like let's think light color, and then we're going to think like red, yellow, green, and then we're going to think like brown, gray, black. And that brown, gray, black is like that working and doing what you really don't want to have to do to to prepare something for yourself, to prepare a place for yourself. And then that green, yellow, blue is more of that wanting to take that risk, wanting to really be that true and do that true, authentic thing that you think will make yourself happy, but it has some risk associated with it, and you may or may not be able to take that risk right now. And like I said, I want to turn this all into a franchise. So you'll also be able to find African American. I'll have that down in the description box. If you can link stuff like that on, this is going on. I forgot what it's called, but I may or may not be able to. I think you can. And like how we want it to be kind of like a musical, and how this works is how I plan my shows are you'll have a number, and this kind of points out the place that each person is supposed to be. So if this is kind of like a scene, this is how this should look, and this is how it should transition into. This is what it should transition into. And I'll create more videos where I kind of go into depth, and when I actually can get things played out and I can explain to you how they were created. And we want this to become a franchise, and for it to be like a business that revolves around a school educational system that trains the people how to do the jobs and how to be creative thinkers, and then have a array of different franchises that would offer jobs and stability to the community. Okay, so thank you so much. The last thing I want to talk about is, why do I say he or she so much? Because in the shows that I produce, I really want it to be like, what is the word, like non-conformary? I don't think that's saying it right. But what I'm trying to say is that, yes, like I said, Alex wears a red shirt and blue jeans, but that's not to say that a girl or a guy can't play that role of Alex Starr. So it isn't like when they're casting, it doesn't have to be specifically a girl or a guy. This is about who can really bring this character to life and really portray emotion in that character, and on the great stage and on the big screen. Thank you so much for listening and taking your time out. Have an amazing day.